Let's talk about post-traumatic growth. In the early years of the global war on terror, witnessing the experiences of many returning soldiers, Americans became familiar with the condition called post-traumatic stress disorder for the first time. Post-traumatic stress is now a well-known specter, haunting dreams and stealing peace, producing hypervigilance, and the constant emotional labor of pretending to be okay. Now, post-traumatic stress does not just come as a result of military service. Anyone can undergo a traumatic event and experience post-traumatic stress. Before we continue, let's define trauma. Trauma, in a nutshell, is anything that overpowers a person's ability to cope. And this produces a feeling of fear and helplessness and terror. When all of a person's normal coping mechanisms are overpowered by a traumatic event, they might experience post-traumatic stress. When these feelings of post-traumatic stress become chronic, this person might be experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. But what is less known or less talked about is post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth has been defined as positive psychological changes that come from engaging with challenging life experiences. Post-traumatic growth is also considered to be a type of mental health recovery. Please recall for a moment our video about mental health recovery. So post-traumatic growth is a type of mental health recovery. In fact, researchers have found that post-traumatic growth is one step in the healing journey of those who have experienced first episode psychosis. Quickly, first episode psychosis is a clinical term that refers to the first time a person experiences delusions and/or hallucinations. Psychosis is an ambiguous term that changes from culture to culture. However, first episode psychosis is typically considered a mental health crisis. In relation to the topic at hand, first episode psychosis is an extremely traumatic experience for a person. First episode psychosis can involve a forcible hospitalization, possibly in a locked facility, with medication being dispensed without that person's consent. This is the very picture of being overpowered. And remember, being overpowered is a very simple definition for trauma itself. Yet, for these individuals, post-traumatic growth is possible. It is part of their recovery journey. Post-traumatic growth for them after a psychosis can entail positive psychological changes, new insight, more authenticity, a desire for a simpler and more meaningful life, as well as letting go of unhealthy relationships. Post-traumatic growth causes a person to re-examine their core belief. This person will go on a journey of self-discovery. They will experience deeper perspectives, more gratitude. They will take more ownership over their physical and emotional well-being. Often, people who come through post-traumatic growth have a deepening desire for spirituality, and many will become more engaged in a faith community. Interestingly, researchers consider evangelical conversion to be a type of post-traumatic growth. So scientists explain coming to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ as post-traumatic growth. Because post-traumatic growth is a type of mental health recovery, supporting a person in their post-traumatic growth actually also supports their mental health recovery. Post-traumatic growth as a form of mental health recovery can be summarized in the CHIME framework. That's CHIME, which stands for connectedness, hope, identity, meaning, empowerment. These ideas, connectedness, hope, identity, meaning, empowerment, ring with echoes of spiritual formation and discipleship. In post-traumatic growth, we see that though the church is not a mental health care facility, there is a seat at the table for the church in community mental health services. When it comes to community mental health services, though the church does not provide psychology or psychiatry as part of our function, we meet very real mental health needs, not as doctors of medicine, but as ministers of the gospel. Let's recap. Trauma occurs when an event overpowers a person's normal coping mechanisms. While post-traumatic stress is well known, post-traumatic growth is less known. Post-traumatic growth is so similar to spiritual formation that researchers consider evangelical conversion to be a form of post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is so similar to spiritual formation that it actually legitimizes the church's claim to a role in the community network of community-based care resources. CHIME is a really great framework to keep in mind when considering post-traumatic growth as a part of mental health recovery. Again, CHIME stands for connectedness, hope, identity, meaning, and Holy Spirit empowerment. Please remember to put any of your questions in the comments below. And if you would like to share your experiences, please remember to protect your own privacy. If today's video brought up any uncomfortable emotions for you, please reach out to one of our counselors at the Hope Counseling Center. The number is on the screen, and there are additional resources for you and for those you love in the description box below.